This is the Fortean Slip with your host, Chris York.
But he can smell the Loveland Frogman.
It's a Mothman festival.
Oh, Mothman, whatever the fuck it is, I don't give a shit.
Co-host, Steve Alcorn.
I'm lazy, and I don't do YouTube videos anymore, but I still get money from YouTube on occasion.
And sometimes special guest, Matt Knapp.
Maybe I could go down in history as the first eyewitness of a moth woman.
I think you should endeavor to do that.
Taking down all things strange since 2013.
But my reservation.
What would Jesus do, Steve? What would Jesus do?
In Chris's world, that's called a good day, Steve.
Oh, Steve,
You're a damn investigator.
I don't know much about that subject. But what subject do I know about?
Which means he can hear it on a quiet day. That's kind of like one of your cryptid sightings, Steve. Asshole lives matter, Steve. What's the Mothman's name?
Actual name?
Fred Dryer.
That's not the Mothman's name.
Dude, you would be hard-pressed to get me to attend a Bigfoot conference if it was like a block away from me.
I was gonna say if it was in Tulsa.
Wolfman Jack was on the air.
I'm the Wolfman.
Another astro.
Every time I do any sort of impression, he has to trump me.
You're about to witness the strength of creep knowledge.
Good evening, and welcome to the Fortean Slip. This is, oh fuck, what episode is this, Steve? Do you know?
If I were to unmute my microphone, it's 106, I believe.
Are we at 106?
Sure.
Is it?
Because 105 was last week, so it's got to be 106.
I think you are correct. This is
I know I'm correct.
This is episode 106 of the Fortean Slip.
When am I wrong?
All the fucking time.
No.
Yeah. I want to know, Mr. fucking non-pop culture is wearing a Wolverine t-shirt tonight. Like, has no clue about the X-Men, but he's wearing a Wolverine t-shirt.
I like my Wolverine t-shirt. It's nice and comfortable. It breathes well. I don't care what's on it.
It touches you in a familiar fashion.
Well, it kind of feels, nice. It's a work shirt, Chris. I got it at the thrift store. It just happens to have Wolverine on it.
Oh. I see.
There's $1.
Well, yeah, I guess you can't beat that. So
I also have a Trix, the Trix bunny rabbit guy.
Yeah,
I have that too.
Tricks are for kids, yeah.
But I don't wear it because it's red, and I don't look good in red.
Oh. Is this going to be a fashion show now?
No, but I've been watching Project Runway.
And
that's a pretty fun show to watch.
And you grew a vagina?
No, I haven't grown a vagina yet. I'm not saying that won't happen the more I watch that show, but
I think it might. I've never watched Project Runway, not once.
You ought to, Chris. I mean, those people are artists.
I think, Steve, that if I've even seen a commercial for it, I've changed the channel. Although I haven't had TV in a long time, so.
Well, see, I don't have TV either. I stream everything. I have a Roku. So we're watching, actually, we're catching up on the older seasons, actually. I don't know what season we're on, but I like it. It's good stuff.
That's great. Did you hear that HBO is going to be coming out with the Beware the Slender Man or something like that shit?
No, but that'd be cool.
Yeah, it's they did a documentary, or they're doing a documentary, or they're about to release a documentary. I don't fucking know. They released the poster for it today, and the release date.
A documentary on Slender Man?
Yep. Well, it's going to be about the killing, or the stabbing, because she didn't die.
Oh, the girls, the teenagers.
Yeah, the two teenagers who tried to stab their friend there. Or, I mean, I don't know if it's really their friend if they tried to stab her.
No, it was a sacrifice to Slender Man.
I find it hard to believe that she was like tight with them.
You know, when you, I have a favorite quote, Chris, and it's called "Belief creates its own reality." And see, in that instance, it wouldn't matter if she was a really super good friend or not, because they believed that Slender Man was real and that they had to make a sacrifice. So whether or not the girl was a good friend was, a moot point, really.
A mute point?
Mm-hmm. Isn't that how you say that?
No, moot.
Moot. Whatever. Same thing.
No, it's not the same thing.
What does moot? Okay, then you define moot.
Moot. It's the way that it's spelled, dude. It's not mute. Mute.
I get it. Whatever.
Mute means that you can't speak. Or you've turned the volume off.
I get that. But it kind of means the same thing. Right? No, it doesn't.
No.
Moot point, a debatable question, an issue open to argument, also an irrelevant question, a matter of no importance.
Ta-da.
I wonder what a mute point is. Look that up. See if...
I don't know, but I wish I had a mute button for you most of the time. Oh, wait, I do.
There actually is a mute point. So there.
Oh,
I don't know what it is.
What is a mute point, Steve?
Look that up if you let me here. It doesn't say.
You're taking way too much time, Steve.
All right,
these legendary investigating skills that you have, they really suck.
Basically something that doesn't need to be said or shouldn't be said is a mute point.
Like
mute, not moot.
Not moot.
Right.
So
there is a mute point.
You need to be able to discern between the two.
Okay, well, I think I do. I know now because I looked it up on Google, and Google is like...
I looked it up on the Google.
It's the good stuff.
You fucking...
So, let me rephrase.
Sorry excuse for a fucking investigator.
I just investigated, and I found out the difference between mute point and moot point. Oh. That's investigating.
That is
got to the bottom of it rather quickly.
You know what, Steve? You are a damn fine investigator.
I am. Anyway, so to rephrase, it is a moot point whether or not they were friends, because if they really believed that Slender Man was real and they needed to make a sacrifice, the point is moot, whether they were friends for real or not.
Correct.
She just happened to be the one that was there, So she probably didn't believe in Slender Man.
So when did they have to turn on each other?
I don't know. You think that would have happened eventually if they hadn't been caught? They would have turned on each other and killed each other off?
I don't know. I think it's a very strange and interesting story that two girls would take on this ritualistic sacrifice in the name of a creature and or being that doesn't exist, was created as a spoof. Really, it was part of what, like some type of contest?
I forget exactly what it was. What was the name of the website? I can't even think right now, but
I don't even remember. But it
was an internet thing.
Right. It was
didn't
not
exist before that.
It was like a created urban legend.
Right.
And they took it to the fucking extreme. I mean, that was some pretty fucking heavy shit. And,
well, it's
I mean, yeah, that's horrible what happened to their friend there, the other little girl.
Right.
It just, and we talked about that. when it
I think
happened.
we did a couple shows where we talked about that.
But I saw that was coming out, and I'm definitely going to have to check that out when it comes out.
Do we know when that's coming out?
I'd have to look again. I know that I saw it and that it is coming out. So
I'll have to see if I can find that. I don't have HBO or HBO Go or HBO anything, so somehow I'll have to find a copy of it and watch it, because I'm really interested. Actually, that particular story I'm really interested in.
yeah,
To see why these girls did what they did and what they were really thinking, and did they really believe what they said they...
But I don't know that we'll ever know the answer to that.
Well, I think that they've realized now that, if I remember correctly, that, Slender Man isn't real. But I don't know.
I couldn't tell you. And I know, I know from looking into it that it was a created thing online.
Right.
And speaking of things online, I thought we should take a look at, or revisit, I should say, our good friend, John Titor.
What is this, like the 10th show we've done on John Titor?
I don't know how many times we brought up John Titor. He's like a running gag on the show anyway. And I've done various spoof, like production pieces with John Titor.
You got to do one for the presidential election. That would be cool.
Actually, that's not a bad idea.
I know. Sometimes I have gems, Chris.
Jesus, Steve.
Few and far between, but they are there, hidden deep inside my mind.
Wow, that is you stroke of genius.
I am a fucking genius.
A fucking idiot savant.
On a rare occasion.
But yeah, so John Titor, it's 2016 now. I'm pretty sure he said that it was going to be all-out civil war by now in the United States. Now, the argument could be made that we could be going in that direction.
Yeah, the argument could be made.
However, he came onto the scene in like 2001. He had actually, according to some people, he had called the Art Bell show long before then. Mm-hmm. If I remember correctly, but I got introduced to this by my roommate, and I've probably told this story before, but hey, fuck you if you've heard it before. He brought home a couple of CDs that somebody had thrown this episode of Coast to Coast on with Oliver Williams, who runs the John Titor website, which I went to tonight, and that fucking thing hasn't been updated in years now.
No, it's been a while.
So, but Oliver Williams is the one that runs that site. He's the one that compiled all of John Titor's posts into one place. Whoa, what the fuck was that, Steve?
It was my girlfriend.
Yeah,
texting me from work, saying
sorry
to disrupt the show, but if you need jeans, they are in the dryer. I forgot to take them out.
Yes, that couldn't wait.
No, it couldn't, because the jeans are in the dryer, and they shouldn't be. So that means after the show, I have to go down and take them out of the dryer. John Titor.
Yeah.
Go.
Yeah. Well, way to fucking throw a fucking monkey wrench in the show, Steve.
When's the last time, something on my end has besides myself, has disrupted the show?
It's been a little bit.
It's been a long time.
It's been a little bit.
It's been a long time.
I'll give you that.
No more cats. The dog stays quiet. Children are sleeping. It's all good.
Did you take a fucking page out of Bill Cosby's book?
No, I haven't. I've heard some bad things about Bill Cosby. Now, the old Bill Cosby, the one on TV, maybe, but not the current Bill Cosby. No.
Okay, so anyway, back to John Titor after fucking Steve derailed the show. This was a name that was used. No one assumes that John Titor was the guy's real fucking name. And he claimed to be a time traveler from the year 2036. Now, he was what was he say? He was a soldier, but he was part of a time travel sort of like military endeavor to go back in time and get an IBM 5100 computer in 1975 because his grandfather was he worked for IBM or fucking some shit. And he had to bring that back to the future so that they could fix the infrastructure, the like the water and the power and shit like that. Mm-hmm. And I guess that this holds water. This part of the story holds some fucking water because these systems actually still run on those. That this IBM computers can talk to these systems. So, anywho, he goes through all this stuff.
So wait,
wait.
What I want to know.
Wait. Hold your fucking question. You derailed the show.
All right.
He claimed that mad cow disease was going to be a big fucking problem. He claimed that the United States was going to sort of degrade into a civil war, and that nuclear war. I think he said that nuclear weapons would be dropped by like 2016, and we're in 2016 now.
Uh-oh.
So, it's actually kind of a good time to revisit John Titor, Steve.
Right. Can I ask my question now?
Maybe.
Well, I'm going to maybe ask. So he had to travel back in time to get this IBM computer. You would assume that some still existed in 2036 if these systems are still running on that system.
Well, I mean, maybe nobody's got one on eBay, Steve.
Well, eBay might be a thing of the past by then.
Or fucking ZipBay. I don't know, whatever the fuck it changes to. Fucking.
Here's my problem with, any story like this, time travel stories or stories predicting future events and things like that. How come it's always bad shit? There's never anything good happening in the future. It's always bad shit. It's always cataclysmic events and things like that.
Well, see, he claimed that he came from a different timeline than us. That time travel was not possible within one's own timeline. You had to time travel to a sort of like an alternate universe that is so close in. He called it a divergence. It was he equated it to a percentage. So if you're going to this other world, you need to be such a percentage divergent, because if not, things will be so totally different that you won't recognize the world that you're in. And he said that the further back in time you went, that the more divergent you became from your timeline. So, because someone asked him if he could go back and meet Jesus, and he said, I could go back that far in time, but I would be so divergent from my timeline that Jesus might not exist, was how he explained it. In the other timeline.
Yeah. Some of that might hold water. We may discover things like that in the future. And
well,
I think
a lot of the theories now are that there are multiple universes and multiple worlds.
Right.
And the multiverse theory, as they've called it, is actually, a big theory right now.
It's a thing.
And I don't know if that's physics or what fucking portion of that science that it is, but I know it's a big thing right now. Neil deGrasse Tyson's talked about it. Michio Kaku's talked about it.
So does that mean there's like an alternate Chris and an alternate Steve and Matt somewhere in the in those other multiverses?
According to John Titor, there's an infinite number of Chris's maps.
No, I mean according to Michio Kaku and Neil deGrasse and all those guys.
They say that if the theory is in fact true, that yes, that there would be multiple versions of us. There would be a version of us where we never did a show together. There would be a version of us where you were the host of the show and I was the fucking stupid sidekick.
Where do I sign up for that universe, for that multiverse, or whatever you call them?
Hey, you could start your own show at any time there, bucko.
I have no desire. No desire at all.
But yeah, that's the whole idea behind the theory, is that it's infinite. And I got sucked into that whole thing when my roommate brought those CDs home. I freaking sat down and listened through that whole thing, and then I jumped on johntitor.com and went through all of the fucking posts. I read everything. And I was just fucking...
You're a Teter aficionado.
Well, I don't remember like everything in detail. I don't have a photographic memory, and I mean, I know the gist of the story. I know a good portion of it. He posted pictures of his time travel device. He said that it had to be mounted in a car, or that's the way they mounted it, so that they would show up in a vehicle, I guess, and that they would always pick vehicles from earlier time periods so that it would fit in.
Like a DeLorean.
Yeah, like a DeLorean. He went into a lot of detail about different things, but he even posted like what looked like schematics of his time travel device. And as far as I know to date, and I've constantly been looking up stuff on Teter, just because I'm curious to see if anybody, totally blows open the story about what the fuck went on. But nobody's been able to figure out what it is that he posted pictures of. And he also claimed that GE was the company that created the first time machine. Like I love how the guy said, like, I can't tell you anything about the future. I can't tell you anything that's going to happen. But hey, GE creates the first fucking time machine.
And this is going to happen, and that's going to happen, and yeah.
Right.
But it's in a divergent timeline. See, he always had an out. So if nothing happened, I don't know how long he actually planned on dragging this story out. Was he going to do it all the way to 2036, or was he just, having a little bit of fun at our expense?
I don't,
for a short time.
I don't know. And people have speculated on this for a long time, now, because this happened in, like I said, 2000, 2001. So it's going on, it's 16 years now.
And that's when the internet was, kind of in the internet we know today in its infancy. So, it would be one of the first big internet. If it's a hoax, it turns out to be a hoax. It'd be the first big internet hoax, wouldn't it? I'm pretty close to it.
I don't know. But to get back to, what he spoke of and interesting things that he talked about, he said that his time machine was powered by two what he called micro singularities, which are two micro black holes, and that it took them it took people a long time to figure out the power source for this thing, but that he said that CERN, the place where they're fucking crashing particles into each other, that big particle accelerator, that they were going to find the source of the power for this thing very soon. Like, hey, again, can't tell you anything that's going to be happening, but this is going to be fucking happening. So, he went into detail about all this stuff about his time travel device. And it was, he put that time travel device into the rear of a 1967 Chevrolet Corvette convertible.
Nice.
And I remember when I was reading through the post, he said that the vehicle that you put the time travel device in had to have good suspension.
Right.
To be able to house the device. So I thought that was kind of weird.
So my Beetle would be out. It wouldn't work.
Yeah, your Beetle would be fucked.
Yeah.
So, and like I said, he predicted the Civil War. He did make mention that the presidential election in 2000 was one of the reasons why he was there. He alluded to that in a big way. Now, whether or not that has any bearing on anything, I don't fucking know. But he did.
Well, you said the story came out right around that time, so that was the big thing at the time. So, I mean, it makes sense that, yeah, this is why I'm here.
But he also said that in his timeline that Y2K happened. And people have speculated that he, in fact, changed our timeline by making it so that Y2K didn't happen. That's like one of the theories or speculations out there, that he changed it on our timeline or whatever. Or that our timeline was enough divergent that it didn't happen. So
you gotta assume that if Y2K happened in his timeline, it would have been more than whatever the percentage divergence, because that would have caused a shit ton of fucking problems, and it would have changed the world completely the way we know it.
Right.
So if it happened in his timeline and it didn't happen in ours, he seems to be his divergence is way the fuck off. Seems to me.
Right. And not to mention the fact that any time that he says anything predictive, it could always be thrown back to, well, my timeline's just different from your timeline. So that's why this didn't happen here.
Unless before Y2K, his timeline was only whatever percentage divergent from ours. And then because Y2K happened there and not here, then the divergence became bigger. But then how would he get back and all that stuff? Because I know there was some issues with traveling too far divergent, right?
Well, he claimed that he would never get back to his exact timeline. That what they were trying to do as time travelers was to get back to a timeline as close as possible to their timeline so that people would be waiting for them when they got back.
But how would they know? Because he's not from that timeline.
And he also claimed that when you went back, you went so far divergent, but when you went forward, you would make up that divergence by traveling back.
So you could get back to your own timeline if you did it exactly right.
No, I guess mathematically possibly, but he said that they would never get back to their original timeline. That a version of them would get back there, but that they would only get as close as they could possibly get, so that they would be in a timeline that was, like I said, almost identical to theirs.
I'm not buying it.
Yeah. And here's the thing.
I can. I can buy some of it.
I guess a private detective started to look into this thing, and his name is Mike Lynch. And there's a for-profit company called the John Titor Foundation. It was formed in 2003, has no office. It just has a rented post box in Kissimmee. And Larry Haber is the CEO of the John Titor Foundation and an entertainment lawyer.
Right.
In Celebration, Florida. We've talked about this before.
Right.
And he came to the conclusion that it was probably Larry Haber's brother, John Rick Haber, who was a computer expert who perpetrated this hoax. That's his theory as to what happened. But to date, nobody knows exactly what the deal was.
So here's my guess. I have two guesses. Number one, the answer is in the name John Titor. Somewhere in that name, it means something to somebody, and if you could decipher what that means, you'll get your answer of who it was. You don't just come up with a name, John Titor, and
well, Teter was
you know what I mean?
Teter was supposed to be a play on time traveler, and you
Could be.
and you could make the stretch that John Rick Haber. I mean, hey, John Teter.
Right. So we'd have to find what exactly Teter, if it stood for something, or it's part of some sort of coding language or something. Some smart, goofball would know. Or John Titor wasn't a real time traveler. There was no John Titor, obviously. But whoever did this maybe was working on this type of thing and wanted to get the information out there. Obviously didn't really ever time travel, but gave us enough information to go forward with it. Maybe they couldn't do it. I don't know. I mean, that's my theory. Maybe somebody actually knew something about time travel, and that's why a lot of this shit makes sense,
Well, that's one of the things that people have fallen back on, is that whoever did this knew a lot about these theories and the science. Maybe he or she, never know, were able to just bullshit. There are people who are really good at bullshitting their way through things.
Yeah, but there's so many sciencey facts in the story that it would take one hell of a bullshitter just to make that stuff up, and you don't learn that stuff just by Googling it. And there was really no Google back in those days, so I mean, there might have been, but it was not what it is today. So you couldn't just look up those facts. They wouldn't be readily available to you. A lot of the stuff, the multiverse theories and all that stuff. So you would have really had to have some knowledge. So if Miss John Haber, is that what you said? John Rick Haber?
Yeah, John Rick Haber is the brother.
What did he do for a living? What was his role? I mean, was he educated? Was he a college graduate? What kind of things did he do?
He was a computer expert.
Or does do. Okay. But how would he know about multiverse and all that stuff too? I mean, I get the computer part, and it's probably some sort of inside joke with the fucking IBM computer or some bullshit, but how would he know all the other stuff, right? I don't know.
Hey, I don't know. I like I said, I got sucked right into it.
I'm not advocating that any of this really happened in real life. I'm just saying that some parts of the story kind of make sense. Most of them don't. I mean, you don't put a fucking time machine in a 67 Corvette because it has good suspension. I mean, come on. But
well, hey, if maybe you do. I don't know.
Well, that would have been after Back to the Future, right? And they used a DeLorean, so these clowns just picked another nice car.
But he didn't say that it had anything to do with the speed of the vehicle or anything like that.
Right, I get that.
He actually said he had to take oxygen with him because you only had a limited amount of oxygen when you time travel.
But it's in the same vein as using a DeLorean for a time travel vehicle. I'm guessing by 2036 they're going to have a better delivery system for time travel, better than a fucking 67 Corvette. I'm just saying.
Well, he used the 67 Corvette so that he could have a vehicle when he got to 1975 that would fit in.
Okay, so why doesn't he just bring cash with him and buy something? Or is that what he did?
No. I don't believe that he did. If I remember correctly, he did.
Traveled in the car.
Yes.
The car was part of the time travel device.
No, the time travel device gets put in the vehicle.
Right. but the car travels in time with him.
Correct. It's contained within the bubble.
So let's look up this John Rick Haber guy and see if he had a Corvette. Did he?
I do not know.
I mean, okay, so we need to find out, is he a Corvette guy? You know, is he even a Chevy guy? Maybe he's a Chevy guy or something like that. So that would fit into that theory. I mean, if he was into, you would pick a car. I mean, I'd pick a fucking Beetle. You know I would if I made up a story like this. I wouldn't. It's just the way it is. So he's going to pick a car he likes. So let's see what he had. What did he drive?
Steve, you need to get to the bottom of this. This is where your investigative skills could be put to the test.
You know what? I think I'm going to. I think I'm going to break this story wide open, Chris.
I think you need to seriously look into John Rick Haver and find out the truth.
Is the guy still living?
I don't fucking know.
Well, I'm going to find out right now.
You're going to
John.
Yeah.
Rick. Haber.
This is riveting, Steve.
Okay, John Rick
Let me know when we can discuss some more.
Goofy looking dude.
He's a goofy looking dude. Is he from Florida?
Yeah, it's him. Now, according to the private investigator Mike Lynch, John Rick Haber is Teter, but I'll have to look into it some more. But you'd have to really look into it to pick the story apart, as far as why would this part of the story be this way, like the computer. Why did he choose that computer? Why did he choose that car? Why did he why were the schematics the way they were? You'd have to really you'd have to be pretty good, but if you could pick the story apart and attach those types of things to this guy, then you'd be pretty certain that this guy was the one, right?
You could probably draw that conclusion, yes, Steve.
Right. I mean, if you could point, okay, this John Rick Haber loved Corvettes. John Rick Haber used this machine in college, or was an expert on this particular machine, or he knew how to draw schematics, and he had a little bit of knowledge in multiverse theory, that kind of thing. If you knew all these things about a guy, you could figure it out pretty easy.
Well, this is
but it would take a long time to get there.
This is your new job in life, Steve. Find out who John Titor was, Steve.
Of course, Mike Lynch, excuse me, claims to have busted it open, but I don't know.
I think he's probably pretty spot on. Like I said, I love conspiracy theories and like shit like this, because I get sucked in, and then I get reading into it more, and it just fucking unravels and falls apart. And it's just, I think I just love the deconstruction of it. As much as I love getting sucked into it, I just love the way it all just falls all apart, and I'm like, oh no, time travel isn't real. And then I watch Neil deGrasse Tyson talk about time travel, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute, maybe it can be real.
There is a P.O. box that's connected to Haber, and that's pretty much the only solid evidence that they got that he could be John Titor. There's no other real solid evidence at this point, as far as I can tell.
Right.
So, and it's P.O. Box 470171, Kissimmee, Florida. So,
and Teter, when he was posting in the forums, he claimed to be living in Florida with his family and his younger self.
So, okay, maybe John Rick Haber is really John Titor, and maybe he's really John Titor. You see what I'm saying?
Wow, Steve, you just blew my mind.
Well, you said he was living with his younger self.
Wow. Well, he said it was his younger self was a kid.
Well, Haber wouldn't have been a kid at that time, but in his timeline, maybe he was. I don't know.
I just think now your theory's falling apart, Steve.
The thing is, they've only got really one or two small pieces of evidence to connect this guy at all. And in circumstantial evidence, I'm sure there's a lot, but actual concrete evidence like a P.O. box, which anybody can open a P.O. box with somebody else's name even, or maybe back then they could. I don't know if they can now with after 9/11 and all that. But so it really isn't that much evidence to connect John Rick Haber with John Titor. So, but I think, I mean, if there is a connection to be made, it can be made. And I'm going to do it.
Well, there is some type of a connection to John Rick Haber and all of this. And
but
there's definitely a connection to Larry Haber.
Okay, so maybe Larry Haber loved the story. Maybe he just, you know, hey, this fucking John Titor thing is cool. I'm an entertainment attorney. Maybe someday I'm going to make a movie about this, whatever. Or somebody's going to make a movie about this. Maybe that was in the talks. And so he opened a fake foundation just to have that to fall back on if somebody ever did it. So now he's in ahead of time before everybody else and on top of things for when this is actually made into a movie or whatever was going to happen. He's an entertainment attorney. So I don't know.
You could be right.
So it's not super, I mean, yeah, so he has the John Titor Foundation, but does that really mean anything? I mean, I can open a foundation called the John Titor Foundation. You can too.
I can?
Sure, why not?
Let's do it, Steve.
Let's, main chapter.
Let's open the John Titor Foundation.
So, I don't know.
Well, I wish you'd find out. I mean, come on.
No, but I whoever it was, I mean, they just had some super knowledge about some of this shit. Now, some of the parts of the story are just far fucking fetched, but the basis of the story could, you know, be based in reality of some sort.
Hey,
Could be.
I don't know. All I know is that it sounded good to me when I heard it. And then I was like, all right, well, I got to look into this. And I read all the posts, and even reading through all the posts, I was like, oh, this is, I mean, because I read through this back in like 2003 or 2004, I think. And I was, at that point in time, you know, all this stuff was very far in the future or coming up. And it struck a chord with me. I don't know what the fuck happened, but I was just like, oh, and then I started looking into it and looking more into it, and it just didn't seem like it held as much water, and I kept up on the story, and then we finally started doing the show, you and I and Matt, and we started seeing how it was really unraveling. And here we are today. And you're breathing really heavy into your microphone. I don't know if you're aware of that, but you are.
I'll try to stop doing that.
Jesus Christ!
All right.
You sound like you're watching. You sound like you're watching internet porn over there.
Now, a lot of this stuff hasn't been updated in years. I mean, even the evidence, quote unquote, busting Haber hasn't really been updated in years, so it's pretty much a non-story, but it shouldn't be because a lot of the predictions focused on this particular year, right? 2016.
I think a lot of people just gave up on the story, to be honest with you. I mean, yeah, he still gets some play out there or clicks in the internet world, if you want to call it that, but I think a lot of people just lost interest in it. It's not as hot of a topic in the supernatural, sci-fi, I don't know, paranormal world, if you want to call it that, Fortean world, because I think it fits into our wheelhouse.
Right.
But
right.
I just think people kind of lost interest in it because a lot of his predictions fell through. Like he predicted that the last Olympics would be like in 2004, I think. And just after people saw his predictions fall apart, I think the people who were way on board just started to slip, and they were just like, this is bullshit.
I'm sure there's a few left who really buy into the story, and not saying it. I mean, it's a 99.9% positively a hoax, but there's always that chance that it's not, and there's always going to be that group of people who will go to their fucking deathbed believing this shit. So now, like I said, it could be based in some sort of reality. Now, am I saying time travel is a reality? Well, I don't know. But, the basics of how time travel works or could work are obviously in this particular story. And I think that's why it got so much play, is because he knew a lot of fucking shit.
Or seemed to know a lot of shit.
Or seemed to.
I think
a lot of that
that's the
stuff,
bigger.
We didn't hear about multiverses and shit like that as much back in 2000 or 2001 when this started happening. And this guy had a lot of knowledge about that shit. Now we hear about him all the time, that kind of stuff.
Right, like I was saying,
and
Michio Kaku talks about it. Neil deGrasse Tyson. There's another guy too, and I can't think of his name. He's not. I know he's done a lot of things like those too, but I just can't think of his fucking name right now.
And then he talked about CERN in the story, and obviously CERN's working towards that goal at this point. I don't know if they were at that point.
Well, CERN is working towards. They I think they would like to create little black holes and be able to keep them,
obviously,
to be able to understand them, and they're smashing fucking particles together over there and trying to find the God particle and all this other shit. So yeah,
but that would have been something that not a lot of people probably would have had knowledge of. I know I wouldn't have back in those days,
Right. He had
regular, normal person.
He had some interesting knowledge, but you always got to go to that but. Why? How did he have the knowledge? It's all, a lot of things can be speculated from just these internet posts, because that's all it was. No one really spoke to him. He faxed fucking Art Bell. He fucking posted on internet forums. It was just text on a screen. That's all John Titor is. He's just fucking text on an internet screen. He's fucking ones and zeros.
He did call into, or somebody claiming to be John Titor called into Art Bell. So, I mean, we have that too. We could do a voice comparison, I would assume, on Haber and Teter. Of course, they could have hired an actor to be Teter or something.
But if, even that is even related to the Teter story, that it's a lot of it just doesn't. To me, it just doesn't hold water. But it was a fun story, and it's still a fun story to revisit.
It doesn't hold water, but in some, like I said, in some instances it does, and I think that's why it, I guess you would say, took the internet by storm back in those days.
Yeah, there were a lot of people in on this. If you got people circulating fucking CDs of MP3s of fucking coast to coast, there's something going on. And
can those Teter interviews or Teter call-ins on Art Bell, can they be found on the internet now? I'm going to have to look that up.
I think I actually have one of them on the Fortean Slip blog.
I would really like to hear it.
I think if you look on the Fortean Slip blog, if you punch in John Titor, you will be able to find that audio. And I think I actually got the updated audio.
I did listen to one once, but yeah, I'm going to call bullshit on 90% of the story, but there's just that 1 or that 10% that just kind of blows your mind when you think about it, the knowledge. That's it.
Yeah, I definitely agree. There's definitely something there that's very, very interesting. But on that note, Steve, do you have any news?
I sure do.
And I don't even have the bumper up because,
Call me a fuck up.
Yeah,
Jeez,
well, hey, it's one of those nights, Steve.
There it is. OpenMinds.tv. We got a former Marine describing a base of UFO activity. Cool. I'm a former. Bleh. I already fucked up, man.
There you go.
I didn't even get half a sentence in, and I already fucked up. A former Marine who was on duty at Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, in 1968 and 69, has come forward to reveal UFO activity observed in and around the base, according to testimony in case 74794. In case you want to look it up, from the Mutual UFO Network.
MUFON.
It's a witness reporting MUFON. That's right. The Marine was assigned to fence line during this time.
If a Marine comes out and says there's a UFO, it's got to be ancient aliens.
Yeah. The Marine was assigned to fence line duty during the time. He said, all of us Marines were amazed at the amount of UFO activity over and around the base, the witness stated. Virtually every night, UFOs are flying overhead with altitudes of less than 300 feet. The witness describes what they were seeing at the time. Most of these UFOs were approximately 50 to 100 feet across, but the naked eye came off as a dull, hazy hall with a small red light trailing behind it. When I stood guard duty on the south side of the base, I witnessed on many, many nights UFOs landing and taking off out of the ocean. There were large blue lights moving around after their landing in the ocean and then slowly dimming down as they obviously descended deeper. The witness said that the most exciting event came when he stood guard duty at the main gate. It was approximately 7 p.m. and it was dark when I stepped out of the guard shack and looked across the fence at the deserted Cuban guardhouse when something caught my eye. Behind the Cuban guard shack, near the ground, was a huge white cloud with a blue-white, or baby blue, pulsating light in the middle of it.
And that's when I took my first bong hit.
A witness asked his partner to verify.
There was a huge white cloud, and then I saw a UFO.
The object had now risen up and over the Cuban shack and was headed directly toward them. Just then, the observation tower called and was yelling us to get the hell out of there. By this time, it was too late because the UFO was now above me and my partner. There was no noise at all, just this big, beautiful white cloud.
It's a UFO, Steve.
I think they were anal probed. No, they don't really say whatever else happened to it, but you think there's some UFOs in Guantanamo?
Back in 1968?
Well, you would assume they're still there if they had the underground UFO base. Well, what do they call those?
Remember, the ancient aliens people tend to say that Christopher Columbus saw a UFO come out of the ocean.
He did.
So
I've heard it.
I don't know, Steve. I really don't know. I guess I want to believe, Steve. I want to believe.
I want to believe, too. And I've seen, well, we've both seen some strange things, but I haven't seen any come out of the water yet in Guantanamo Bay. So
never been, Steve.
Maybe I'm wrong. Me either. From Smithsonian Magazine. Ooh, that's some, serious news reporting here. Chimps may be performing rituals at shrine trees. Scientists think that chimps throwing and stacking stones at hollow trees may be evidence of early rituals. Nice.
Great.
Since the 1960s, researchers have recorded a myriad of surprising behaviors from chimpanzees. They use leaves, twigs, stones, and spears as tools, sticks as dolls, and throw rocks in displays of dominance. Now scientists think that they may engage in ritual activities similar to our early ancestors. An international team of researchers observed chimpanzees in Guinea, Guinea-Bissau. I think that's how you say it. Probably not.
Yeah, there you go.
Liberia and Cote d'Ivoire.
Yep.
Anyway,
That's
they're
exactly
routinely-
how you say it.
I apologize to our fans in Cote d'Ivoire, or however you say that, for mispronouncing your name. Anyway, they routinely throw stones at certain hollow trees, creating rock piles reminiscent of a cairn. I have no idea what that is. A new study published in the journal Nature documents this unusual behavior. Though not definitive evidence of ritual, scientists think that the chimps may be creating shrines under specific sacred trees, writes co-author of the new study, Laura Kehoe, for the Conservation. Indigenous West African people have stone collections at sacred trees, and such man-made stone collections are commonly observed across the world and look eerily similar to what we have discovered here, she writes. Kehoe and her colleagues discovered the rock piles after a wildlife guide in Guinea led them to a hollow tree that he thought had been marked by chimps throwing stones. The team set up a camera trap at the site and soon recorded a male chimp approaching the tree, looking around, and tossing a large stone at it. Further investigation revealed many similarly marked trees in the area, some of which had piles of stones in them or at their base. Oh, what do you think, Chris?
I think these same creatures shit in their hands and throw the shit at each other.
I think it's a little bit of a stretch to believe that this is some sort of ritualistic. I mean, I guess in a way it's a ritualistic behavior.
No, I think it's an interesting speculation, but yeah, chimpanzees do some pretty human-like things, and this type of behavior definitely kind of warrants some investigation. But like I said, they shit in their hands and throw it at each other, or we'll throw it at you.
It's kind of almost a religious type of behavior, wouldn't you think? I mean,
it would be
ritualistic.
It would be
A lot of times
totally
it is.
fucking spectacular if we were watching some type of cultural evolution in chimpanzees right now. That would be
I don't think we are.
fabulous. But
I'm assuming this has been going on for however long chimpanzees have been around. But I think they're just now discovering that this behavior. But I guess it kind of ties into how we evolved, I suppose.
it could.
We started out like that.
There could be keys in there to how we evolved.
And that would be kind of neat to study this behavior and kind of link it to us, and maybe we can learn something about ourselves.
Wow, that just
Ancient aliens.
you just fucking
I threw that in
you
there.
just went way deep, Steve. Are we gonna?
I do that sometimes.
Do you want to do some guided meditation now?
No,
Good.
not at all. Does that involve a spirit guide and all that shit? Like, 'cause I still don't want anything to do with that shit.
Oh, that's going down, Steve.
No, it's not. WPXI.com. This one was posted on a friend of mine's timeline, and I just had to read it because it is very Fortean-ish. Police say a woman escapes officers after fleeing in a minivan. Well, why is that important? Well, because it was a Mystery Machine minivan. That's why. A woman in California managed to flee authorities Sunday following a high-speed chase in a brightly colored minivan painted to look like the Mystery Machine from Scooby-Doo. According to multiple media reports and a news release, Reading police said they were searching for Sharon K. Turman, 51, on suspicion of violating her probation and later fleeing from police while driving at speeds that topped 100 miles per hour. Police attempted to stop Turman around 12:50 Sunday after Shasta County Probation Department officials said they had reason to believe Turman violated her probation, according to the news website. They found her driving a 1994 Chrysler Town & Country minivan.
Jesus.
Painted teal and green. She fled when the authorities tried to stop her, police said.
I wonder if
It's not even the right fucking van.
I wonder if it's the same one that I saw made up to look like the Mystery Machine in California, because when I went to the Bigfoot Museum, I ran across one.
Well, was it a 1994 Chrysler Town and Country that was all beat up and shit?
I can't fucking remember. All I know is I saw it.
Well, you got I had a 1994 Town and Country, and this fucking thing has the same exact wheels as mine did. Mine wasn't painted up to look like a mystery machine, though, but now I wish it was. Anyway, so she fled when authorities tried to stop her, police said, and the California Highway Patrol and Shasta County officers joined in the chase. They briefly lost sight of the minivan. How the fuck can you briefly lose sight of the mystery machine?
Well, you know.
The bumper's hanging off. Anyway, but a Redding police officer spotted it in a short time later. Truman was driving without concern for other motorists, according to Redding.com. She ran a red light through an intersection, nearly striking 4 other vehicles. Authorities kept watch over Truman in a CHP helicopter. Later saw her abandon the minivan in nearby Tahoma County. Her whereabouts remain unknown.
Oh, she escaped.
At least at the writing of this story. Because I was going to use the joke. I was going to use the line, Chris, but it just doesn't work if she escaped.
Oh, and I would have gotten away with it, too, if it hadn't been for you. Yeah.
Maybe they did find her. I don't know. We'll have to look for an update.
Yeah, an update.
And somehow we had one more news story tonight.
Yes.
But I clicked off of it, and I can't find it now.
Anyway, fucking, yeah, because Hillary Clinton claims she's going to fucking declassify all the UFO bullshit. The end. According
to some UK bullshit website, yes.
Well, it's actually according to more than just a UK bullshit website.
Well, I'm sure they kind of stretched the truth a little.
I don't know. Maybe.
Well, we all know Podesta, her, whatever he is, press secretary or whatever the fuck he is into that shit.
Right.
And apparently he's convinced her to open all the files that may or may not exist on UFOs if she becomes president.
Sounds good.
So that'd be actually pretty damn cool.
I'm in.
Although I'll never vote for Hillary, but I'm not going to vote for any of the other ones either, so it's all good.
Right. That's all you got.
But that's the news, Chris. That is the news.
Great.
Or most of it.
Yeah, because you lost a story.
I just keep going back.
This has been episode 106 of the Fortean Slip. If you like this shit, hit the thumbs up button.
Did you say 146?
No, I said 106.
Oh, my hearing's off. Go ahead.
Thanks. If you don't, hit the thumbs down button. Leave a comment. Subscribe. Check out Dred Funn at dredfunn.com and at youtube.com/Dred Funn. Check out bigfootcrossroads.com. Matt could not join us tonight. He was otherwise occupied.
Indisposed.
As always,
Crypto.com.
As always, check out theforteanslip.com and or theforteanslip.blogspot.com. See ya!